Hello, Android developers. In this episode, I'm excited to introduce a guest I met at Berlin Quality Engineering Meetup hosted at JetBrains. We'll be diving into a practice that I have found incredibly valuable both in my past roles and currently at Volt. We are going to discuss the why and how of developers utilizing test management systems, also known as TMS, like Qase. So let's get started. Dear Vitaly, would you please introduce yourself and give us some idea who you are, where you're working, where you're based?
Thank you so much for inviting me to this show. I watched a few videos of your podcast, if you call it a podcast. I loved it. Thank you. And I am a developer I've been a developer for the last 23 years. I started doing front-end development in 2001 when Internet Explorer 5.5 was still a thing. And it was quite fun, I must tell you. I remember how I praised Microsoft for releasing Internet Explorer 6.0 because it was much better than 5.5. Yeah, it was fun times. And yeah, so I've been a developer, I've been a quality assurance engineer, I've been an engineering manager, a team lead. I've mentored companies and team leads in terms of software development processes and people management and quality assurance processes. And now I'm a developer advocate at Qase. My wife calls me developer avocado. She loves this term. She also draw me like so with the dog because I love dogs. When I lived in Georgia, I saved many stray dogs, more than 50 found new homes. And yeah, this is my passion. I'm also a quality enthusiast. I believe that we, as customers and users, and just as people, deserve products of higher quality. I also believe that we, as developers and testers, should take pride in what we are doing. I mean, I have many hobbies. For example, I have a leathercraft hobbies, and I have two leather wallets, which I'm really proud of. Of course, it took me time to make them. Of course, it took me a lot of effort to make them, but I can feel it, I can touch it, it's tangible, and I'm really proud that my mother is happy about using this wallet, and my wife is happy about with her using this wallet. So it's deeply satisfying when you're building something which customers love. And this is one of the reasons why I joined Qase 4 years ago, because Qase, as a test management system, and we'll talk about it a bit later, was built by our CEO when he was working for a big corporate as a manager. It was built by him for his testers team to help them help everyone else build
Mhm.
products of higher quality. And we still have this motto or I'm not sure vibe or atmosphere that we are proud of the products we're building. And this keeps me working in my company. And I just love this product. So I, as a developer, have also quite a few hobbies. One of the hobbies is now Arduino. This is the
Mhm.
prototype of the weather station. The idea for the weather station is I live in Marseille in France now, and there is a beautiful national park called Calanque here. It's 400 square kilometers of rocks and sea and wildlife. And what I want to do, I want to build a weather station, a simple little tool which will like a box with little solar panel,
Mhm.
and so it can run on its own. And this weather box will only wake up once a day to take air quality reading from a special sensor, to take humidity reading from a special sensor, and to take temperature reading from a special sensor. And also it has this little tiny camera here so that it also will take a photo of what's going on. And I want this station to be built and certified in the prefecture so that I can install it in a national park and leave it
Mhm.
there for unattended for 5 years. This is a
Mhm.
very, very fun project. And for ESP, if you don't know what it is, Arduino is like a little computer. So this little tool is a has a processor, a CPU of 2 cores, RISC processor. Each of them runs at 240 megahertz. It also has 4 megabytes of memory. And so it's very, very tiny. This means that it's low energy consumption, but also it means that you can only write code with C++. Last time I wrote code in C++ was back at the uni days, so it's 25 years ago. And when I was writing this project, it was really fun for me to get back to C++. And since you are all, dear audience, Android developers, you are much closer to the hardware that an average front-end developer is. You have to, if you're writing something complex, you have to work with the API of the hardware. You have to
Mhm.
understand the limitations of the hardware. You have to work with the hardware. Like if I'm using the phone, I was once writing code, iOS code for my phone, because I'm an Apple user, sorry. And whenever I was writing it, I had to rotate the phone, do some physical actions with the phone that would trigger certain behaviors in the app. This is untestable in automation, right? I mean, of
Mhm.
course, you can trigger something, but it's not, it's far from real triggering.
Mhm.
So, working with hardware or working with mobile adds a significant challenge to testing of what we're doing. For example, when I worked for Badoo, a big dating app back in 2019, we had one of the testers taking the phones with him in the tube, in the London tube, so
Mhm.
that he can test the intermittence of the cellular signal. Because the cellular signal disappears in the tunnels and it disappears in a certain fashion which is very hard to reproduce with automation. You can't just say, okay, I'm offline, because it's offline, 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 online, offline, online, and it's blinking, and then it's slowing down, and then you're reconnecting again and again. So with mobile or with Arduino, you have to be wary of what you can automate and what you can't automate. And this is an integral part of the development. Why? Let me tell you. First, I want to start with a few definitions. In quality assurance, there are two big families of standards, ISO standards. Maybe if you just take any box of a phone or just any box, you will see ISO 9000 certified. Pretty much all the companies try to certify their production process with ISO 9000 so that they can enter certain markets.
Mhm.
Pardon me. So, ISO 9000 has this definition for quality. Quality is a degree to which a set of inherent characteristics, the characteristics of the product you're building, fulfills requirements. There is also a family of standards ISO 25000, which speaks particularly about software products. So they say that the quality is a capability of our product to satisfy stated and implied needs. This is very, very important. So we as users have some needs, some desires, some requirements, some wishes for the product. And the product is of high quality if it satisfies our desires. So I simplify these two definitions to this one, that quality is a match between what is desired and what is produced. And by desires, we can mean a lot. We can mean governmental regulations so that the product doesn't explode in our hands, or safety requirements, or usability requirements. Like if I'm building a chair, a wheelchair, I must build it in such a way that it satisfies safety and also usability requirements for the disabled people, for less able people.
Mhm.
And this is very important to me that we first, when we speak about quality, we first understand what quality is. Quality is not coverage of auto tests. Quality is not just that we satisfy the governmental regulations, or quality is not just that we satisfy the user's requirements, because users might want something which is unsafe. Like you've seen Titan submersible, where which exploded. Users and the CTO and the engineers, they simply wanted to go deeper without considering the safety. And unfortunately, that led to extremely severe consequences. They died.
Yeah,
So
I
we
also
have,
like to add my own experience about
yeah.
testing in place as a developer because in 2017, I was working with a startup which was developing a hardware which was supposed to be a car assistant, and the whole mobile app was taking care of connection and taking care of the communication between user and this device. And we had almost every week we had one session of testing inside car because we had to go sit inside the car and test everything and make sure it works perfectly inside car, because yeah, you can sit behind your desk and say everything works, but yeah, in the end you should drive the car and see if navigation is working, if this device can connect to every car audio infotainment system, because Bluetooth is a mess and things like that. So I totally agree with you. Yeah, go on, sorry.
No, 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 all good. Please interrupt when you have something to say. And this meme that I'm showing now, I'm sure everyone saw it. And this meme illustrates really well how misunderstanding of the requirements and desires and regulations lead to weird or bad consequences.
Mhm.
I mean, at any of these stages, if information about the desires and expectations is lost, we are screwed. Um, we must first understand what these desires, regulations, what set of expectations we have for a system. And only then we should code it. Because if we do not understand the desires and expectations, regulations, and everything, if we have information loss on any of these stages on the meme, then we have low quality result. And low quality result always leads to the waste of time and energy. You've maybe heard about the Boehm's curve, the interesting observation made by a statistician that if a bug is fixed during the requirements clarification phase, it costs, let's say, $1 to fix it. If it's fixed after the development is done during testing time, it costs $10. And if it's fixed when users observe it and see it and experience it, it costs $100. So it shows like an exponential curve of the economical effect, negative economical effect of information loss propagating during the software development lifecycle. And the developers might ask, why should we bother? Like, I'm writing the code, I have my user story, I'm writing the code, I'm passing it on to QA or testers. Why should I bother, right? I mean, I'm paid to do the coding. But for me, in my experience as a developer, I was always blamed for bugs. I've yet to work for a company where like even good managers still see developers who omit many bugs as bad developers, like clumsy developers, lazy developers, something. And this blame, it actually is quite painful. I mean, as I've said, I am as a developer, I want to take pride in what I'm doing. And when I'm constantly told, Vitaly, in this module you wrote, you have another 10 bugs. I'm like, ugh. And also, what's interesting is that if I'm writing the code and I see it working just on my machine or just my auto tests pass, and I pass it on to testers and forget about it, when they find bugs there, they bring the task back to me. And I, at that point of time, am already working on something else. So I have to postpone what I'm working on, leave it aside, come back to what I've been writing before, remember, recall it, like understand what I was doing, switch the context. And there are very many studies proving that switching context is extremely cognitive. It adds extreme cognitive effort. And when I have three tasks returned to me from testing, I have to juggle between them, and it's ridiculously hard. So I have blame if I emit many bugs, or if I'm doing something wrong, if I didn't understand the expectations well. I have blame. I always will have blame. We are blamed for not understanding the products. It's rarely the case that the product manager says, "Oh, my fault." It's like I omitted something in the requirements. It's my fault. Vitaly, it's all right. I take full responsibility. Usually, it's me who is responsible for that. And constant rebuilding and arguing doesn't make anyone happy. Like if I spend 3 days on writing code and then tester fairly says, "You know what, Vitaly, you've built something, it's working, but it's not what we wanted. It's not what's defined in the user story, or it's not how I understand it being defined." This brings arguments, or this brings me to the stage where I have to rebuild the feature. And I hate that. I honestly hate that. We all love what we build. We spend energy on it. And when we have to rebuild it, it's just, I don't like it. And so this brings me to understanding of what these expectations are. We have regulations, we have user desires, we have internal stakeholders' desires. We have to find some common balance. We have to define the expectations. And there are very many ways to define them, but I can categorize them into four categories to manage expectations, ways of managing expectations. First is formal models and contracts. Like if you are a contractor and you're working on delivering a piece of software for government, let's say, or for your city council or whoever, you have a formal contract. Then the common one in many startups, in most of the startups and companies and even enterprises, user stories in Jira written in plain English text. Third one is unfortunately quite rare to see, but I love this approach, is Gherkin, where you have given one then, given that I am a user, when I am opening the page, then I see this and that. Or BDD or TDD, where expectations are written in a certain, almost a formal language, which in BDD and TDD can even be executed, so that I can execute these expectations and see that my code is not up to them or is up to them.
Mhm.
And the fourth type is the one that I'm talking today about, is test cases in a test management system. So let me briefly talk about the first one, the formal models and contracts. This pile of paper was purchased by me from Shutterstock, but I've seen contracts like this thick, A4 standard of paper, this thick. And once I was reading it, and it took me 3 days to read it. So imagine how much time it would take me to actually implement these specifications. And this approach works really, really fine if you can pay for it. For
Mhm.
most businesses, it's prohibitively expensive. Like the whole agile movement emerged because this type of work, where expectations are written in a very law-like language, like jurisdictional language, where
Mhm.
everyone can only interpret this language in a in one way. It takes so much energy and effort. You have to have business analysts, you have to have system analysts, you have to have everyone take a single part of the document, implement, review. It's like the proper waterfall model that we had 50 years ago, but it still
Okay.
works for medical software or for medical devices.
Mhm.
God forbid you have only Jira user stories for a medical device. You will have to comply with certain regulations in order to enter the market, even.
Mhm.
And these regulations will demand from you that all the expectation and all the safety procedures are listed in the contract. So I would say that unless you are developing a medical device or we are working for a government for a huge contract, this type of setting and managing expectations won't work for you. It's going to be too expensive. And Android, I'm not sure that Android is used in medical devices or areas, sensitive areas like this. I'm not sure. Maybe it is, but I'm not sure. I know that Arduino, the thing that I'm building, is not used in regulated environments, let's say. It's not ready for it. So this approach suits only certain projects. User stories in Jira, the most well used, the most often used approach. This approach works if and only if everyone understands and interprets plain text English in these stories in one way. I've seen cases where a feature based on a user story, well described user story, was built, and then the product said, "This is completely wrong. This is not what I meant." Of course, there was a meeting afterwards and they agreed on how it should be done. They rewritten the user story, but it was waste. And the
Mhm.
developer wasn't happy at all that he spent so much time on building something no one wanted. It's pure waste. And another issue with user stories in Jira is that let's say you have a feature request as a user story, well written, well understood, but then later on, in a month's time, you have a couple of bug fixes in Jira, and in 3 months' time, you have feature update requests for this feature. So in half a year, where and how will you get the list of up-to-date expectations for this feature? You will have to dig into Jira history. Even if you link the Jira tickets well, you will still have to get a full understanding of the expectations in the original user story, then apply a diff of the changes from the bug fixes in your head, then apply a diff of the changes in a feature update tickets. And
Mhm.
this will take you time, but not only that, with more and more diffs, it's getting harder and harder in terms of cognitive effort to recompile the list of expectations for this feature. And another problem is that user stories are changed by managers. I don't blame managers. I was a manager myself and I helped managers a lot. But problem is that product managers are often pushed by financial incentives and OKRs and KPIs to deliver more and more features. And they have a lot of meetings. And I can't blame a person for not being meticulously accurate in defining what she wants if she doesn't have enough time. It's going to be just hard. So unless you have a perfect and mutual understanding of how to define expectations with the managers that you work for, it's going to be hard for you to come up for any feature with an up-to-date list of expectations. And whenever you have a bug ticket coming to you, you have to do that. You have to understand what is a feature and what is a bug. And if this behavior that is reported by a user is actually in an intended behavior or is it an unintended behavior? Maybe it's a bug after all. And this is not even shown on any time trackers, this type of activity. You just have to grind, you have to understand what's going on in all those tickets.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's hard. And after all, you sit at your code and you look at it like so. Like, is it how it should be working? I'm not sure if it's working like it should be working. And things get even more complicated when people leave the company. Because if you're looking at someone else's code, it's even harder. Like you forget your own code in half a year, in 6 months. But if you're looking at someone else's code, which was written a year ago, and the person is not on the team anymore, oh, that's going to be tough. And here is the beautiful solution that we have in the industry, Gherkin or BDD or TDD. If you can master it, you're pretty much golden. If you can agree with the managers and testers and designers and all the internal stakeholders that all the expectations are written in this format and managed in the repo where you store these expectations, beautiful, simply beautiful. However, I've only seen a few companies where TDD was present because TDD or BDD is quite hard to master. You have to switch your mindset as a developer completely to start with writing tests first and only then, and tests are your expectations, and only then you can write code to execute those tests and to satisfy those tests. Of course, it's beautiful if you can master it. But there is a little problem that whenever you have a manager who is extremely busy, that manager, chances are this manager won't write new changes, feature request changes in the BDD format. Chances are they will write it in plain English text. And if you don't have time to update your TDD suite, then you're screwed. Because then you come back to Jira user stories case. And also there is a little caveat here that if you have a repo with BDD and TDD or Gherkin or whatever, you have to link to Jira tickets which were originating for these feature requests
Mhm.
in the code. And when you have new feature updates, you will have to add them to the stack in the comments. So this traceability is hard with BDD. Connection between Jira and BDD TDD is hard. You have to find a way to do it. And so this brings me to the way how I am writing code now. And I believe that this approach might suit well most of the developers, at least in Android, iOS, and Arduino world. So I will talk first and I will show then how it looks in Qase. So Qase is a test management system. The whole idea behind a test management system is that all the work regarding managing expectations, updating, deleting, removing, adding, executing tests is done in one place. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if the tests are automated or manual. All the work with expectations is done in one place. So with BDD and TDD, all the tests are automated. Essentially, everything is automated. You have to switch to automation. If something cannot be automated, like I will be showing you soon how I test air quality module here. I burn paper to see that my air quality sensor is changing the reading. There is no way for me to build a test laboratory. It's going to be too expensive for me to build a test laboratory where, like a box, where I'll be putting my Arduino device inside and I will program the box to reduce the quality of the air by adding some gas into the chamber so that I can automatically test it. For some industries, it's doable and it's needed. For me, it's not. My project is much simpler than that. So I have a set of manual tests and a set of automatable tests or automated tests. And the whole idea behind a TMS is to provide you with a single place to manage all the tests, manual and automated. So you have a single place to store all the expectations. And if you agree with managers and testers that this place is the place to store expectations, then it's much easier for you to work with it and to keep it updated all the time because the tool itself, without a process around it, doesn't make any sense. Like I've seen, for example, with automation tests, I've seen companies and teams claiming to have 80% coverage or 90% coverage of automation, and yet they had so many bugs in the system. The reason is because they had KPIs for automation. So they had great automation tools, perfect automation tools. And yet the process was flawed. They had a bad process for automation. And so that their coverage wasn't improving the quality of the product. They were just adding tests for the sake of adding tests. So when you have a good process around a decent tool, Qase in my example, or any other test management system, then you can manage all the expectations in one place. So let me show you how I do it.
Before you start showing, I love how passionate you are talking about this topic. And
Thank you.
yeah, regarding TDD in Android, I ask this question from many people, and it's very hard to do TDD in Android because all the things that you said, all the sensors, motions, it's a real hardware that you should understand. And as you said, in a box, you cannot change the air quality. And yeah, also regarding code coverage, I totally agree with your points. And even ask everyone else, and most of people who are doing Android for a long time agree that code coverage doesn't mean anything. If you have a high code coverage, it doesn't prove anything.
Right. So as I've said, test management system is a good place to store, manage, update, delete, add expectations for the software. And I believe that it is very easy to set a process of work around a TMS so that you have a ticket in Jira, user story, as we all do. Then you can set expectations in a test management system. And let me show you how I do it for my weather monitor. So first, there is a GitHub with the code. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
So there is a GitHub with all the code. The weather system, in terms of functionality, is quite simple. So it has a few sensors: air quality, air pressure, and temperature sensor, and the main unit, the CPU with RAM and the code. When it's live, it connects to a 3G modem, which is inside of it, and sends sensor reading data to MQTT. MQTT is a very simple message queue protocol with a server. And I have a very simple page. If you can see the page here, I open it in Chrome, where I can request air quality reading, humidity reading, or temperature reading from this device, or even can request a camera snapshot. Let me, this is what I'm doing now. I'm pointing it at myself. And yeah, you can hear taking a photo and sending it to the system. So this weather system, weather monitor, can be tested automatically without a test to a certain degree. I can test my logic of connection to MQTT. I can test routing of requests. So whenever I press request quality button, the request must come to the ESP through MQTT and WebSockets. ASP must read it. ESP must request data from the sensor, send it back to MQTT, and my Chrome JavaScript should be able to receive that reading and display it on the page. All this routing logic can be abstracted away from the real networking and tested really easily. And I have a serious set of tests. Hold on. Vim tests, test native, main CPP. I have a serious set of tests here which test all the logic which is possible to abstract away. I actually used TDD to a certain extent to write the code for this system, and it works really well. So, for example, I can define in a TDD terms that if there is a request for a sensor that doesn't exist on my ESP, this test, like non-existing sensor, my ESP should respond with an error to MQTT. This is quite easy to do, right? I mean, TDD allows us to test things which can be abstracted away from the hardware. It is not possible to do a test like this with a TDD. So I have the air quality sensor here. I have a piece of paper and I have a lighter. So whenever I light up this paper and put it close to the sensors, so the smoke should be detected by the sensor.
Mhm.
And then I go and read air quality data. The air quality got lower for 7 units.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this test is completely impossible to do in TDD or automation or anything else. Same goes with temperature or humidity. If I were to test humidity sensor, what would I have to do? I would have to spray water, and I would have to be really, really careful with spraying the water so I don't spray it on ESP and have a short circuit anywhere. But just spray it on top of the sensor which reads humidity. With temperature, it's pretty much the same. I would have to put my lighter or the fire close to the sensor to see that the temperature is rising. This is impossible to do with automation. So regardless, like even if I have 100% test coverage for everything I do, this is untestable.
Mhm.
And this is what I have in Qase. So Qase as a test management system allows me to write very easily in a textual format. First, I write manual test cases. So my expectations for the device, for the project I'm building is very simple. First expectation is that when I turn ESP on, when I connect it to the computer in this case, to the USB computer port, I see the light on the LED, the green light on the LED. So it's turned on. This is the first expectation.
Mhm.
Then the second expectation is that I can connect to it through the serial port driver and I can see that it works. Next expectation is that it can connect to the Wi-Fi. So, pardon me. So I write an expectation in TMS that whenever ESP is connected, it will show me in the log that it connects to Wi-Fi. Next expectation that it connects to MQTT. So it's easy for me again to test it. So I go to my terminal and I see that it's connected. Okay, I see it is connected. Can I automate this? Possibly I can, but this is not the time to automate for me. These are the general expectations for the functionality. Next expectation is that the page that I showed you actually shows that the ESP is connected, that this page actually works. Can I automate it? Possibly. I can write headless Chrome automation and request the page and check the screenshot. But do I need it now? I'm not sure. The next expectation that when I burn the paper close to the sensor, then I see that the air quality is getting lower. These are like users' expectations. Some of them are users' expectations. So even from this perspective of burning the paper, it's not even a user expectation, it's my expectation as a developer that I need not to forget that whenever I change anything in the system, I need to recheck that I haven't broken air quality sensor reading, or that I haven't broken MQTT connectivity, or I haven't broken temperature sensor reading. So these are the easiest expectations for me as a developer to write. And then, of course, I can think about automating some of them. So if I have a look here, the last test run here, test run is a very simple concept. Whenever you are checking that your system is or isn't confirming, it isn't or isn't satisfying the expectations, you do testing. So essentially, you're doing a test run. You're checking that manually or automatically, doesn't matter, checking that your system satisfies the expectations. And so here, if you see duration, it's saying 4 seconds, but actually it took me just a bit more. It took me half a minute to check that to check manually that ESP powers on, to check manually that it connects to Wi-Fi, to check manually that sensors are initialized. And so when I'm seeing that, I can then argue with myself, you know what, Vitaly? Maybe you should automate it. Maybe it's taking too much time, too much of your precious time to do certain things manually. And this is actually what I've done. So I have my integration tests here. So what I did, I wrote a simple suite of tests like this, that MQTT, whenever ESP is running, that it connects to MQTT and it publishes data to MQTT. And how I run it is even simpler. Oh, come on. How I run it is even simpler. PO test. So I build integration tests for my ESP. I upload the tests to the ESP. This is what's happening right now. ESP isn't fast. It's not Android. You can't upload and run your tests in like a couple of seconds. It takes certain time. But then the tests are compiled and uploaded and run on ESP, exactly on the device. So whenever I see that manual tests are taking me too much time, I automate them. I run them on ESP. This is what's happening right now. And test results are submitted to Qase. So now I have a new test run here, which is in progress. What does it mean? It means that integration tests that I've written, one, two, three, six of them, they are run successfully. Yeah, it's showing duration of 0 seconds. ESP doesn't have internal time, so it can't show duration properly. But anyway, it's showing me that the tests are running and they have run and everything is fine. What I now need to do is I just need to go and proceed with my manual tests.
Mhm.
So I have a full list of checks, both manual and automated, and I can mark them as passed. For this purpose of the talk, I will not be doing all the tests manually because it's going to take time. So I will just mark them as passed. And for me, this whole process makes my development much easier. Why? Because I'm now spending very little time on manual testing. I'm spending some time on automation things which take a lot of time when done manually. And if I had a tester in my team, if I wasn't running this project alone, I would be much more certain that whenever I pass certain feature for the tester to check, I would be certain that I didn't introduce regressions, that everything works. I was certain that I was working in an optimal way so that I wasn't spending too much time on manual tests. I wasn't spending too much time on automating things which might not be even necessary to automate at this point. I would be automating only what's taking too much time. And so if a tester takes this project, and I actually ran this experiment with my wife, she's not from IT. So I gave her these test cases, which I
Mhm.
wrote in a plain English with screenshots and with instructions. And she managed to do so. She managed to complete manual testing for me. So if I had to delegate manual testing, it was very easy for the next person, for the tester, to come and use Qase to help me with manual testing. And then that person could say, you know what, Vitaly, this particular manual test case is taking us too much time. Can't you possibly automate it? And I would say, why not? I mean, if every single feature request I'm writing is blocked for half a day because a tester must set a particularly complicated environment or burn many papers or do something crazy, maybe it's worthy for me to think about automating even this complicated case. And if time builds up, if like for the last year, if I was working for this project for many years, we could see in Qase, we could see statistics on how much time manual testing was taking. And we could talk to project managers and tell them, hey mates, hey folks, see, we've postponed releases during the last year for so much time. Maybe it's worthy not to hire more manual testers, but to invest in your case, an Android case, for an automation laboratory of certain Android devices. Maybe it's just worth it to spend that 20K to set up this laboratory. Maybe emulators don't cut it anymore. Maybe we need, even like I've seen laboratories where things were pressed, physically pressed on phones. So it does cost a lot. And how can you even think about arguing with managers on investing this money if you can't present them with data on how much you slowed down the releases? So if all the work regarding managing expectations and doing testing is done in one place, like Qase or any other TMS, then you have enough data to prove ROI, the thing that managers love all the time. Prove ROI. I cannot prove ROI on automation unless I see that it's taking me too much time and doing it manually. But if I can show the data, then I'm golden. And then I can prove the value of automation testing. And maybe, just maybe, I can prove it to developers as well, because I know, being a developer, writing automation tests, integration tests, sometimes feels like, why can't testers do it? Why should I like let them do it? Let's hire automation testers. Let's hire someone else. I'll be writing beautiful code. But after all, no one cares about beautiful code except for us. And beautiful code is not a thing in itself. Beautiful code must do what's expected. And how can we tell if it does what expected if we don't know for sure what's expected? So,
Great, great. I would like to interrupt you and switch to the nice panel that you were sharing. And yeah, TMSs or test management systems, as you said, what are the main functionality of this panel? So I use it almost every week because we have a weekly release cadence. And I almost know most of the functionality or features that we should expect from a TMS. I will try to explain a bit and then you can maybe improve and correct me.
cool,
So
cool.
normally we define a project which holds all these data and buttons on the left side. And then I think it should be somehow defined in all TMS tools that there is a repository which is going to include all the test cases. And we define test suites, which test suites are like folders for all those test cases, which we somehow break them into smaller functionality or features. And then what I like about Qase is the way and detailed every test case can be defined. Like as you showed, you can add the steps and then add the screenshots, and then you can say, okay, this is the pass, but this didn't. That's very cool part of Qase that I really like. And then you mentioned something about test runs. So for us at Vault, test runs is every release. For every release, we create a test run. We get every test, or somehow I can say a replica of all the test cases into that test runs. And then if there is some automation like Maestro test running, we check that this test is done. But then there are some manual, as you mentioned, that we should go step by step and check them as done. Am I correct? Am I missing something?
Yes, you're perfectly correct. Yes, exactly. So in my in my mental model, test run is a collection of checks that you think you must perform in order to understand that your change set, the thing you're building, the thing you're going to release, is actually matching the expectations. And this includes, or might include, both regression testing or it be just smoke testing, like a little piece of tests, the most crucial tests, like you can log in into your app, you can pay, you can perform very basic things, or you can be really thorough about it. You can test everything. It's up to you to define what you need to test before you release something. And it's up to you to define what you automate and what you do manually for every release. In the ideal situation, which is very hard to achieve, you automate pretty much everything. But this is very, very hard to achieve because when you're closer to the hardware, as you are, dear audience, with Android, you have to build external hardware lab which will be automating certain things like rotating the phone or pressing the button or swiping or doing something like that. Because if you just use emulators, for example, you have to rely on the matching of the emulators with the real hardware, and it's not always as it should be. Like I remember once the emulator of the iOS was running at the CPU speed of the computer, and it was like 10 times faster than the actual phone. So my JavaScript was so slow on the phone while it was really fast on the emulator. So yeah, test run is a set of checks you are running to see that your change set, your feature, your release is up to the expectations. And yes, it's very easy to, in any TMS, it's very easy to organize your tests. As you fairly mentioned, you have a repository of test cases. So here I can add another case, very easy, explain it in very easy terms, and I can then show it to anyone on the team to see that it's okay, it's understandable. So there is, when you have a TMS, there is an inherent intuitive process of you create a test case, you show it to someone else to review that it is good, it is understandable, that it can be worked with. And then you have a test run whenever you want to check that your system is up to the expectations. And of course, in good test management systems, you have things like shared steps. In my particular little project, I don't have shared steps, but if my project grew and if I had, let's say, half of the project focused on sensors and half of the project focused on the interface, then possibly testing the interface could be organized as a shared step so that those people who work on sensors would also test the interface, that they are not breaking the interface by their changes. And of course, you have a lot of other things. You have environments, you have everything. I am focused in this particular talk on showing the very basic, bare minimum value for the developers, which in my mind is that you as a developer should be interested in understanding that your changes or your features are not breaking something, because you're going to be blamed for that,
Mhm.
and that your feature that you're building is up to the expectations that you set. You can always show, like, you can always show this test case to a product manager before you write the code or after you write, or during the writing the code, doesn't matter. You can say to your product manager, see, this is what I feel your user story looks like. This is what I feel your user story should be translated to in terms of expectations. Do you agree? And if the product manager says, yes, this is exactly what I meant, you're golden, you're perfect. Like you can just move ahead and proceed. In this case, if the product manager tells you, yeah, it's all good, there is no chance that this product manager will then say, oh, you misunderstood me. No, mate, we agreed that I understood you well. And this brings you just safer work environment. And for me, this adds, like adding these manual test cases added like 20 minutes of work, or maybe half an hour of work. But then when I see that my wife, who is not from IT, who could be considered a junior tester, let's say, when I see that she can perform those manual tests, I'm like, okay, I've done a good job. I now can safely say that regardless of who from the testers team will be testing my code, they will not tell me everything is broken. And this is, for me, this is good. And oh yeah, the interesting thing here is that when you have a single place to store expectations, both executable or not, the beauty of it is that it's easy to collaborate with everyone. As I've said, with testers, with managers, with anyone. You just show them these are the things I am expecting from my change sets. Do you agree? If they agree, fine, you're safe. And another thing is that when we use something, when we use a tool with a good process, we keep it updated all the time. So whenever I have a new idea, I will put it as a test case. And then when I write the code, I will have to check against my test case. So it's like the idea behind TDD was that you write your expectations in an executable format, and your compiler will force you to write the code to satisfy the expectations. With test management system, it's pretty much the same, but that you can also use manual test cases as well. You define them, and then you have to make the code satisfied. Otherwise, like it won't work. And yes, of course, it can help you prove the value of automation. If you like automation, if you think that automation saves time, and if you see that automation saves time, you can prove the value to the manager.
I
And I
have two questions.
yeah, yes.
Sorry, I have two
Mhm.
questions. One related to integration.
Yeah.
How does Case integrate with other tools? Can, for example, I say my automated test sends report to Case, so all those test cases are checked automatically?
Yes, thank you. So in this particular case, I had to write a C++ reporter for Case, because Case was never meant to be working on ESP,
Mhm.
and we didn't have a reporter for C++. So I wrote it. It was quite easy, quite fun. But we have reporters for all the testing frameworks, for all the popular testing frameworks. So how reporting works? Let me just show you in terminal. It's very easy. Just 1 second. Now it's here. Vim include case reporter. So in Unity, you have tests, ESP, main CPP. In Unity, you have things like run test. In Unity, you run your tests like so. So you just have your run test and a certain function which has to be run. So I defined my own macros in C++ to replace Unity macros. So now I have instead of run test, I have case run test. So basically, this is how we work with reporters. We have reporters for all the testing frameworks, and all you do, you connect your reporter to your suite of automation tests, and it submits data. It not only shows you that it works on your machine, but it submits data to Case API. So Case is an API first platform. So we have API for pretty much everything, and it's very easy to write a reporter for Case. I'm actually this is very interesting development. I've just agreed with our CEO that I will be writing reporters for Android. I will buy me an Android phone, and I will be seeing, because we have a Kotlin reporter, but I want to see if it actually works well on Android. So this will happen this autumn. I will write a reporter for Android so that I can I will write some apps on Android, for Android and iOS, and I will see that I will make sure that the reporters work well on Android. So basically, you connect your testing framework with our reporter, and our reporter submits data to Case. And then it allows you to have both automation test runs, automation results in a test run, and manual results in test run as well. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, great answer.
You had a second question.
Yes, I want to ask for indie developers. So, up to
Mhm.
what extent Case is free for a developer who is working on their own pet project, or it's not come to making money out of that project?
There is a free tier, and there is a startup tier as well. You're welcome to have a look at the pricing page, but you're always free if you're working on an open source project. Please
Mhm.
contact me, and we will arrange something.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and this is actually very nice. This has a very nice connection to this slide. Why not Excel? Some um, when I present the idea that you should have one place to store your expectations, the most common question is, why can't we use Excel? Of course you can. There is no problem in using Excel. It's like you can use your project documentation in a Word document, right? I mean, no one stops you from using Notepad to keep your project documentation. It's just that you can't integrate Excel or Word with automated tests. You can't properly collaborate. When I'm writing articles in Google Doc, even collaborating with editors in Google Doc sometimes is hard because it doesn't keep the history. It doesn't like it's just not built well for particular use cases. And Qase was built with QA process in mind. So we have things like test case review, something I mentioned before, that if I am not an experienced tester and I'm just thinking that I might be wrong about writing a test case, I can submit it to you, Mahsen, for review. And you can say, yeah, this is good, but here you lack something. Please add this and this and that. And you can't do it in Excel. You can if you train everyone, but training takes time and effort. And just using a tool which was built for that makes just a bit more sense. Yeah, and also some fun facts. I've already mentioned that for this particular project, I had to build a C++ reporter. It was so fun. This is a topic for a separate discussion, I think. But what I use there, I am a big proponent of TDD. And reporter is a perfect example of something which can be built with TDD. Because all it does, it stores strings in an array format, certain format, and then it sends them over the network. Pretty much everything can be automated there. Pretty much everything can be TDD there. Only the last final network call has to be real for you to see that it works. And I used ChatGPT to generate code for the tests that I wrote myself. So I was using this approach of TDD with an LLM. I wrote tests myself in C++, and then I asked ChatGPT to generate code. It was a very fun project. I will share the link to this project as well. It's like really fun. And also this, if you see this, if you look at this slide, there is a little one. So I'm showing you a big Arduino here. This is a big ESP. But I've tried buying a miniaturized version of an ESP. I called it Greg, little Greg, this little tiny computer sitting on top of the AirPods case, and it died. Can you imagine? I actually killed it with static energy. With static electricity. So I was touching some wool or something, and then I was putting my finger close to it, and I saw a little spark, and this poor creature died. It was so fun. I just love it. And this told me that working with physical devices or working with phones or working with hardware, it's actually quite complicated. So we can't just say my code works and therefore the project works. Greg died. Code was fine, but it died because I touched it with some static electricity, right? And we have to think about the quality of the whole project. It doesn't matter how beautiful the code is in the Greg's firmware. It just doesn't work anymore. So I think that we as developers should think more about the overall quality of the project and the product, not only because we take more pride from it, but also because it saves us from blame and it saves us from wasting time when unhappy users or unhappy testers or unhappy managers come and poke us saying, Vitaly, it ain't working. Go fix it now. I remember once I was spending Christmas time on fixing a product. It wasn't fun. So maybe we should think more about building the quality in and thinking more of how we can help testers, managers, and ourselves to build good products.
Totally agree. That's a very stressful situation to be in. Cool, cool. Thank you so much. Thanks for talking so passionate about what you love to work on. That's very interesting to hear.
Thank you.
And are we done here? Are you out
Yeah,
of?
I think yes.
Okay, great,
I
great. Thank
encourage
you.
everyone to try out Qase. If you have any questions on integration, on anything, find me on LinkedIn. I will ask Maxim, please add my LinkedIn to the recording link. And yeah, I'm always happy to chat. I also organize meetups in Berlin regularly every 2 months. If you are an Android developer who is passionate about quality or who is writing auto tests or who is doing manual testing in your team, do come talk to me. I can help you prep. I always help speakers prepare for their first talk or for the next talk, whatever.
Mm.
And you're always welcome. I love bringing more ideas and more perspectives to my meetups.
Thank you very much. And yeah, that's it. If you like this video, please do not forget to like and share it with other developers. And yeah, do not forget to subscribe if you are interested in Android development. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maxine. It was a
Bye.
pleasure.